Mithat Rende is the former ambassador to Qatar, as well as the representative at the OECD, and he joins us now here on the News Hour. Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for joining us. Good to have you on. I want to get your expert opinion on this. Now, it's interesting because drilling in the Eastern Mediterranean region is actually, it's nothing new. I believe Israel has been doing it for about a decade now. Why all of a sudden has the Eastern Mediterranean become one of the most controversial geopolitical hotspots? Is it just because of Turkey?
Well, recent gas discoveries made the headlines, but as you rightly said, 10 years ago, the Israelis struck the first gas, and then they found gas in two major reserves, Leviathan and also another one which is called Tamar. But then the Greek Cypriots managed to get some gas, to strike gas in their concession block called 12. It became more controversial, more complicated when Turkey decided to buy a vessel, a deep sea drilling vessel, and start its own drilling. So then they protested and so on. But I understand that the European Union, together with the Greek Cypriots and Greece, they tried to isolate Turkey in the Eastern Mediterranean, and they also played a kind of a small game, got together with the Israelis, the Egyptians, and they tried to create a bloc in order to contain Turkey and to isolate Turkey. But Turkey is determined to continue with its deep sea drilling activities. It has this issue has its political, legal, and economic dimensions. As regards the economic dimension, sometimes it's quite easy to strike a gas, but exploration is different than exploitation. So you need to be able to reach the markets. And the Israelis started negotiating with the Turkish side with a view to reaching to the Turkish market through a deep sea pipeline. But then with trade relations and so on, at this time, it seems that it's not so possible to get Israeli gas.
Yes. All this is happening on the backdrop of a divided island for the last 40 years. You mentioned the European Union. It's deeming Ankara's actions as illegal. But the Turkish side and the Turkish Cypriot side's position has always been, hey, we can use this opportunity to reunite the island. Do you share that point of view?
I think from the very beginning, we thought that exploration of hydrocarbon resources should be done following a final comprehensive settlement in the island. And then it has to be a kind of joint action with the participation of the Turkish Cypriots. While the Greek Cypriots, they decided they opted for a unilateral action. They established their own so-called exclusive economic zones. They concluded agreement with Israel. They concluded agreements with Lebanon and Egypt for the delineation of their exclusive economic zones in the Eastern Mediterranean. And they refused to cooperate with the Turkish Cypriots. And therefore, the Turkish Cypriots, together with Turkey, they established their own maritime exclusive zones. So Turkey also established its maritime, its continental shelf, and registered it with the United Nations. And then they decided on the outer limits. But the problem is now we have overlapping self-declared maritime exclusive zones and conflicting arguments, conflicting views and approaches. In this case, international law suggests that you need to resolve the issues through negotiations and to reach an agreement. But of course, we do not recognize the Greek Cypriots as a sovereign entity because we have our own sovereign entity and we are on the other. So this is why we are in a position, for example, to engage with Greece and start negotiations, because we have also another conflicting argument, because they have their own maritime exclusive maritime zones, which is conflicting with the Turkish continental shelf. So we are in a position to negotiate with the Greeks, but not with the Greek Cypriots until we have reached a comprehensive settlement. If we can reach in the days to come or in the period ahead a comprehensive settlement for the Cyprus issue, and then if we can have a new government with the participation of the Turkish Cypriots, then we can recognize them and enter. It's quite complicated.
Whoever said deep sea drilling was simple was quite mistaken, right? No. Ambassador Rende, thank you very much for your analysis. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.